Hello and welcome back to 17 HMR Vermin Hunters. This is my latest video posted up on YouTube. Thank you for following and thank you for subscribing. Hope you enjoy it. This video has been shot towards the middle to the end of 2023 last year. And here you'll see all my night vision kit in my boxes. I've got everything nice and tidy together using shadow foam. And what I find is that everything's neat and tidy, and then I move everything over and put them in my rifle bag then before I go. In the rifle bag, I keep just the one IR torch I take out for the night, spare batteries. I use my night vision binoculars, and also there's my new scope mate NVRS 12, and you'll also see the IR torch. And here you'll see the Infiray T2 Pro Android mobile phone add-on. It's an excellent device. It's very small. It's only 3/4 of an inch across square. It sits on top of the gun right in front of my add-on, night vision add-on, and what I use that then is a thermal spotter. It's changed my hunting completely, especially on long distances down the golf course where I'm looking out to about 600-700 meters, and the foxes come in so quick and they pop up from the streams and behind the trees, and with our thermal spotter it has changed it. Here you see the Wildcat Evo 223 moderator. I bought this the same time as the CZ 527 thumbhole. Bought it from the gun dealer. Here you see the IR torch. I use a 2x magnification doubler on it. It gives me just the right distance, right out from 25 yards up to about 180 yards, and then combine that with a T2 Infiray Pro. Fantastic bit of kit, work well on the gun together. And here you'll see the ScopeMate NVS 12 LRF. Absolutely brilliant device, really impressive scoping devices over the last 2 years since I've used them, and this latest edition is absolutely fantastic. Here you see the Infiray T2 Pro in use on the gun when I'm setting it up, and basically you'll see stood in front of it and you can see the capability that this has. It's got a very good quality when you're close, up to about 40-50 yards. Further from that, obviously, then it does lose. It has got a very small thermal sensor on it compared to the new and more expensive thermal scopes and spotters out there, but for my purpose, on a budget, absolutely perfect. I use Norma 55 grain small game Vermin head bullets. Fantastic matchstick in this gun. This gun really likes them. It took a bit of time to get used to the combination of using the 223, but now it is absolutely perfect. Any distance right out to about 150 yards I've taken these animals. Now I've managed to get the scope well mated against the gun and avoid the parallax issue, then they drop immediately. The 55 grain Norma small game doing its job. Fantastic bullet. I've encountered quite a lot of foxes coming in close to the golf club. They come to the buildings looking for food around the bins, and they tend to move up and down the greens looking for food, and obviously from there they tend to defecate on the greens and make a lot of mess, and they tend to rip up the greens around the bins. The bins are always nice and kept well by the greenskeepers, but unfortunately the foxes come along and they will dig around the bins, make a lot of damage. And here you'll see using the NVRS 12, a couple of small rabbits sitting about 150 yards off on the top of the green. I've left the rabbits alone this year. There's only a few down there. The foxes don't seem to bother them, and I've left them because they don't cause any impact or damage on the greens at the present time. The foxes seem to be the big problem. There is a large amount of rats on one side of the golf club. I've taken the air gun down there, and there are some very big rats. Using again the NVRS 12, I've only put the night vision thermal add on the back of the air gun, and I've taken quite a few big rats away from the drainage areas to the left hand side of the main greens. Here you see the T2 Pro with the gun unloaded, looking out across the golf club down to the main road that skirts this one side of the golf club and then goes up into the hotel. And in the shot here you see my GC350 and a small trail camera that I put next to the GC350. I've had a few young cubs coming in. They tend to nose about the speaker, and I have noticed them coming in, and it does do some really good shots of that. Here again, using the T2 Pro on white hot, early hours of the morning, and you can see how the heat in the trees is reflected. On the GC350 Icotec, I used during the year rabbit in distress, small vole in distress, the rat calls, all to various successes. As you see, this owl came in middle of the summer and it came into the call. I do get a lot of success towards end of October, right up until end of January then with Vison on heat. Fantastic call, really effective. What you'll see in this shot, long shot, 150 yards, this large dog, he seemed to be very interested in the call, but obviously it spooked. I think it was the infrared. The IR seemed to reflect back on him and he just wouldn't stop. Doesn't matter how I called him using the caller or my lip squeak him, he wouldn't stand still long enough for me to take a shot on him. Here you see on the thermal, white hot again with the GC350 in the foreground, and then you'll see the pond and the trees lighting up the white using that thermal spotter. Fantastic device. Flicked it here to use it opposite, and this is in black hot. Same effect again, and you'll see this time the trees and all the larger items are marked up in black. I generally tend to walk a lot of distances on the golf course. I carry the pack on my back, which has got my GC350. And here the first night out of the new gun in July. This young dog fox, very interested in the caller. He wouldn't come in past the trees, he'd generally tend to sat in the trees, and then he bolted, made out about 120 yards, and then I followed him with the thermal, and then he seemed to be interested and came back again. Long shot off the sticks, and you'll notice here that even though it's the first shot and I set the gun up, I was finding a lot of problems with the IR switch, and the IR switch seemed to be, and the velocity of the gun going off, tended to knock it off. I encountered this problem for a few times on my first trips out, and then from there I realised the issue, and I changed the rubber, the back of the switch. It gave it more impact resistance, and I sorted that problem. And you notice in that shot as well that this young fox bolted immediately after being hit. The shot, even though it was long, there were issues when I set the gun up originally using the parallax problem with the add-on, and I was noticing it was either too high or too low slightly, and this young fox had caught him low shot in the abdomen. He bolted off, but literally only got a few yards, 50 yards into the small scrub the other side of the trees, and then this shot, as you see me walking out after I found it, is the other side of that hedgerow. There's a long hedge, he disappeared through that, come out the other side, and just literally had dropped. He'd only gone 50 to 60 yards and dropped immediately. It was a low abdominal shot. Here the shot's taken with the rifle not loaded. This is a large brock. I've come across this large animal quite a few times. It seems to be a large male. He's very, very big, and he does very similar behaviour to what you see the foxes doing. They skirt up and down the greens looking for food. They tend to go to the bin area, and they tend to look around to see if there's any food being dropped on the bin area, because the golfers are taking items with them throughout their walk. And I think that's what the foxes and the badgers are doing, is literally sniffing along, looking to see if they can find any drop food. But unfortunately, they generally tend to go to the bins are, and they generally tend to do some damage around the bin area. This is a raised small green. The tee area here sits right underneath the footpath that goes to the hotel, and using the thermal I picked up this fox. No amount of calling, no amount of using my mouth calls or the hand callers. I tried different callers. He seemed very, very interested and just wouldn't move. As you see, typical behaviour, they're walking up and down looking for food, and then they generally tend to sit and they defecate on these areas, and this is the tee off on this particular small green, and they sit here. Unfortunately for that one, he wouldn't come in, so that's one left for another night. Here we are in August. What you'll find with this one was only 70 yards away, doing the same type of behaviour, looking for food. And again, this is the second time I used the rifle, and what I was noticing the problem, every time I took a shot, perfect drop, I hit this one mid-chest and dropped it. And what happened again is the velocity of the gun going off took the IR off straight away. I turned the IR off immediately and then turned off the scope mate, because the amount of velocity just seems to be knocking off. Again, I have resolved that problem now. I've put a small rubber washer in the back of the IR where it screws on, and I put it on to the IR torch on the back on the clicker, and then it stops that. Another long shot's in place again. They really tend to like congregate around this area. There's a small tee off on top of a raised green, and they come here looking for food. There is a bin in that area, and they generally come from the hotel down the steps, and then they look around constantly looking for food in that area. The same tee from a different angle. I noticed it far away on the thermal. Tried to call it in away from the hotel. There's no safe backdrop. Just tried to call it in. It just refused to come. There's an awful lot of food in this area. There's a lot of mice. There's a lot of rats along that bank just below the hotel, and they generally have more interest in that. Another one for another night. Every time I go out, I normally see one. It's a very, very rare night on the golf course when I end up having a blank. I don't see any at all. You notice the GC350 mated here to the tractor, the Predator decoy, where I've got a small flapper on it. I notice the young foxes tend to go a bit nuts for this. September 2023, this young vixen sat high on a bank as I turned the thermal around, listening to my GC350, sat proud. She was about 8 yards away, and I took this shot. Again, I think I may have brought the rifle too low. As you can see, instead of dropping the animal immediately, it did rise up. The impact hit it below the chest and the shoulder, but it had gone down the bank and immediately dropped within a space of 15 yards. But obviously, it's amazing how much adrenaline these animals run on. As you see, the gaping wound behind the shoulder entered to the left of the shoulder and out behind the right shoulder, huge hole, and it still managed to run on. September 2023, this vixen, looking around the trees, along the greens, again listening, has got some interest in my calls, but there's a lot of interest on the floor. There's a lot of food falling down. It generally tends to get dropped around the bin area as they come along the walks between the greens. The foxes generally display the same behaviour, constantly looking. It got away from me that particular time. It went round the back of the green, and as I walked up the other side, this young animal sat there quietly watching it, and one shot and immediately dropped it. But again, I think because of slightly what I noticed with the bullet as it entered, it hit it from behind, from the right hand side, and the animal didn't drop, but immediately rechambered, and in the matter of seconds I hit it a second time and dispatched the animal. Late October, this very big vixen. It's the biggest vixen I've ever seen. This is, I thought first when I walked up to it after they'd taken the animal, that I dispatched a large dog. Typical behaviour around the trees on the left hand side of the greens, looking for food. The grass is very flat here. There's no rough in this area, and there's no rodents at all, but it's the same behaviour they display. Interested in my mouth call, I tried to bring him round to give a safe backdrop, because again the hotel sits to the left hand side or where the shot is taken. This animal tended to ignore me for some time, but then eventually did manage to come in front of the large trees, and there's a set of trees again behind this one, and as you see the thermal inlay, I waited for it to get behind the two big trees and took the shot, clean drop. And then as I walked up with the scope mate, I really did think this was a large dog fox, a big animal. The heat signature on the thermal was big, very large stomach on it with a large bushy tail, as you see, and I thought this was a dog fox, a big animal. But upon inspection, it was a vixen, and in October obviously it wasn't carrying cubs, but very big, nice coat, in very good condition. It was a mature vixen with a good set of teeth, in a very good condition. I used Norma 55 grain small game Vermin head bullets. Fantastic match against this gun. This gun really likes them. It took a bit of time to get used to the combination. I've used the 223, but now it absolutely perfect any distance. And this next one is the last fox of the year. This was taken in December, late December, just before Christmas, a little bit of a cold time. I picked the animal up first of all on the thermal. It tended to be working up and down the hedgerow, came out, and time I managed to get the NVRS, the addon on, I didn't see the animal walking a great deal, and I tend to use, you notice it coming from the hedge on the thermal, it gave a lip squeak. It tended to listen to me, stopped twice, and then the last time it stopped, then I took aim and dropped the animal immediately. Dispatched it clean, one bullet. Using the Norma 55 grain small game bullets, working well here, combined with the 527 CZ. The gun loves them. Clean drop immediately. This is about 85 yards. During the shots you've seen on my videos this year, since I've gone up to the 223 Centrefire, is my CZ 527 223 rem in a Vermin barrel with thumb-hole laminate stock. That's sat the Wildcard Evo moderator, and I use the 223 Centrefire ammo, is the 55 grain normal small game Vermin tip strike bullets. These are polymer tip and a muzzle velocity of 3,215 foot per second. Really well matched with this gun. This gun, now I've settled into it, really does do well. The scope mate MVS12 LRF night vision scope add-on, combined with the infrared T2 Pro thermal phone unit, and finally the Icotec GC350 and the PD200 decoy that's slaved to it. Please click the thumbs up, and like I said, please subscribe for more. There will be another video out soon. It will feature the CZ 527 in 223 up on the farm. Quite successful over the winter, later part of the year 223, early part 224 when it got really cold. Very successful. A couple of large dogs using the GC350 mated up against the Vison on heat call. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again. Happy shooting.